Well, that's
Dude, what?
a man in a suit? It has to be Slenderman, right?
That scream, though. It sounded exactly like the scream we just heard, right? Okay, that was weird. That was really weird.
So is it safe to assume that whoever's this stuff belongs to is gone too?
I don't know. I would imagine so, right? Like, all this stuff is...
Check it out.
I think there were voicemails, missed calls. This phone wasn't touched since the yell.
Yes.
So, Sarah, her name was?
I think it's Sarah.
Ashley was saying that she was calling someone called Sarah, right? She probably heard the yell and probably went to look for her. Because that was close. Like, that was right around the corner.
I don't know. I think maybe Sarah disappeared first. Because why would she not have her phone with her? Maybe that's...
All of her stuff is here.
All of the stuff is here, like...
The phone was with the bag and just left here.
I don't know,
She
man.
gave her phone and her bag and everything here. She didn't even get to set up her tent. She probably went missing first, and then her friend Ashley couldn't find her.
Or was on her
And
way
it was-
here.
Yeah, and that would mean it's Ashley's scream that we heard. That was
Definitely Ashley's scream,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
So
There's no way we go back.
what do you mean? That was 4 minutes ago.
So, like, right away. Yeah, I think the scream is still ahead of us. We can come back in and actually, like, investigate.
Wait, let's go check some things there. That's what we did earlier.
Sure, let's go up the hill. See if any of these people are there. Hopefully they're okay. And hopefully we can offer, like, some sort of help.
We got some stairs.
Yeah, I'd say this is at least, like, okay, no.
1,000?
Yeah, some old tribe used to live here. They used to worship Slenderman, actually.
With the help of Slenderman technology, almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it used to be super advanced. Something happened the fall. August and Atlantis. Yeah. Atlantis came by.
I thought it was the Great Flood.
You should probably check your facts.
We should probably go see if that person's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, I don't think it's kind of weird that you took all this big.
Only one.
Guys.
Is that like a new? Is that something? It says Sarah got to cat.
Ash.
Well, that's weird.
What is that?
Look, though. Look at the trails.
Jesus.
Outlined it.
Dude, this symbol's like... Is that the same one from earlier on that side?
Yeah, like really similar.
That's what that is, babe. Dash the symbols.
That's really freaking weird, man. I'm a little freaked out.
Are they talking about the same cabin? Me too.
Right? There can't be. There's not many cabins out here, surely, right?
Not on the map, but I'm guessing this is the same one. The cabin is Hiker's Outpost, so technically everyone knows there.
Yeah, I think it's weird that, like, she didn't make it past the campsite that was there. So, like, they were, like, this close to each other and they didn't know where they were. It's a little weird. You think she...
Just in case.
Yeah.
That is
Save big at the Hot Tub and Swim Spa Blowout Expo this Thursday through Saturday at the Decatur Conference Center.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Hello, everyone. I'm Max, and today I'm here to maximize your fear. So far, 2024 has been a year filled with many strange things caught on trail cams. From weird unidentified creatures to killers and to many other unexplainable phenomena. So today I decided to highlight some of the most chilling and downright horrifying creatures caught on trail cameras this year. So grab your maximum fear coffee mugs and allow your fear to be maximized as we recap the scariest trail camera clips of 2024. This practically brand new footage captured on July 2nd, 2024 captures what looks to be a shapeshifter. It was taken in Heroica, Veracruz, Mexico. The security camera that filmed it was placed behind the building to keep out intruders, but this was certainly no ordinary intruder. Take a look.
measurements of divine time and divine space, divine light and divine love.
When a young woman begins to experience horrific visions, daymares, during her waking life, she will seek help from her parents. Believing the matter to be spiritual, they consult a priest who tries to drive multiple demons out of her body. However, ultimately, the exorcisms would fail. The result of which has created one of the most compelling and yet controversial cases of the 20th century, possibly ever. Today, we'll be examining the life and death of a woman named Annalise, 6 demons, and supposed torture. This is the untold story of the exorcism of Annalise Michelle. A terrible, truly horrifying story. Present the case as chronologically accurate, full of details I can, and ultimately the conclusion is up to you. So let us first start at the beginning. Joseph Michel, who had served in the military during the war, was thankful to have returned to his family's small village, following his imprisonment by the Americans in sequential release in late 1945. Having seen the horrors and ravages of conflict, he thanked God that his small village of approximately 3,000 souls hadn't been attacked during the foreign army occupation or the devastating air raids that leveled most major cities in Germany. He would be reunited with his family and would assume a job within his family's business. During this time, he would meet a woman named Anna, a local girl. Within 2 years, the couple would be married. Born as Anna Elizabeth Michelle on September 21st of 1952 in Leipzig, Bavaria, West Germany. Anna was a very shy and somewhat sickly child as she grew up. Michelle was raised along with her 3 sisters as very religious, and as a family they would all attend Mass once a week. And although frequently sick, she was known for being very sweet, but also very shy, usually keeping to herself in her studies and school. All was going well for Anna, who would become known by the name of Annalise, a combination of her first and middle names. This was until she turned 16 years old. Shortly after her birthday, Annalise had a moment where she fainted in front of her younger sister. Upon her sister calling her name and poking her in the arm, when she came to, she believed that she was just exhausted from studying too much and decided to lay down for the night. With that, little did she know that her torment would begin. As she slept in her bed, shortly after the clock had struck midnight, Annalise would awaken in a panic as a giant force, that she would later describe it, was holding her down. She felt the area around her bend, as if a very large person, a creature, was sitting on top of her. This entity began to press on her stomach, which caused her to urinate. Panicking and unable to breathe, I called out to God in desperate attempt to stave off whatever this thing was. Convinced unable to breathe and unable to call for help. Again, she would be frightened by the toll of the church clock bell tower. Upon informing her mother of this second incident, her mother was unsure what was happening to her little daughter, so she decided to take her into the family physician, a man named Dr. Holt, at the recommendation of Dr. Moe and Dream Offshore, to meet with a neurologist by the name of Dr. Siegfried. Dr. Luthy that day would run a variety of tests, all which would come back negative. Unsure of the results, he asked them to return on August 27th for the following and more tests. One of the tests ran upon the return in August was an EEG, which reported normal alpha-type brain activity, coming up yet again empty-handed. The doctor still had to account for the impulsive episode that his patient said she was experiencing, so he diagnosed her with typical low epilepsy. From here, she'd be placed on a drug known as Zildjian, antidepressant, and this worked for a time. As 1969 would progress, she would become very sick. In December, she would contract pneumonia, which would be further complicated by tuberculosis infection. She became too ill to further attend her studies and was forced to drop out of school at that time. She would remain back at home in her bed until January of 1970, at which point her condition still hadn't improved. So as a result of this, she was transferred to the hospital. Rector pieces were not shown by this all of the motion that woken up the others in the wing of the same story machines. Michelle would be assisted with changing her pajamas and bedding and try to sleep under nurse supervision. The following morning, the girls' gossip had reached a peak. They began to speculate if Annalise had previously had a headache, or if she had water in the drain. Annalise herself, however, didn't pay much attention to them. She was becoming withdrawn, was still weak from the previous night's episode. She was more concerned with what was going on with her health. As the day progressed and dust settled on the horizon, while the other girls were headed to the cafeteria, Annalise opted to stay in her room, stare out her window, and say her evening rosary. As she prayed, the voices of the returning girls seemed louder than usual. However, what once appeared as massive and foreboding mountains appeared more beautiful this time. Their peaks glistened with pink and violet as the sun hit. One of the girls would approach her as she was admiring her grave, would ask if she was all right. She then would compliment the eyes of Annalise, sure of what to make of this, shook off the girl's remarks. She would go on to finish her rosary. The following day, she would be sent to another specialist to attempt to figure out just what was going on inside of her head. After a day's worth of tests, including EEGs and blood, find no evidence of anything was a new and terrifying manifestation in her normal waking life. She would begin to see demonic creatures seemingly stalking in the shadows. They would appear in the mountains, corners, and even upon seeing their gaunt faces, she would often fall to her knees and beg the Virgin Mary for grace to make these terrible visions go away. After 6 more weeks at the sanatorium, she would be examined once again by a physician and again have more tests ran, and yet again she would be found to have no abnormalities in her brain symptoms. With this conclusion, she would finally be allowed to return home to her family. Return home was happy at first, being back in her own bed, surrounded by familiar faces, but yet Michelle found herself soon going back to school, readjusting, of course, other courses than others. However, she would end up returning to school to finish. This time, of course, she would be visited by multiple doctors all throughout the year to monitor her health. She would have several more seizures, although seemingly not as severe as the ones previously experienced. And all of those that seemed to be pretty minor, she was still experiencing disfiguring visions. She began to share this with her mother, and after time and time again, with the doctors not finding anything abnormal about her, Anna began to think that something supernatural was taking place. One evening, the two parents discussing this matter in particular, Anna tried to convince her husband that what was plaguing their daughter was unknown. She told him that Annalise had been seeing horrible, twisted faces all throughout the day and night, sometimes in the mirror, looking out a window, or even through the faces of other people. One vision in particular that Annalise had relayed to her disturbed her so much that she had to share it with her husband, Joseph. Annalise had told her that upon seeing the statue of the Virgin Mary in the living room, with her mantle and her eyes turned black, a hideous grin appeared on her face, and her small, elegant hands seizures, Anna would make an appointment with Dr. Luthi. Several days later, Annalise would troop to that very appointment. It would be determined that she had been seizure-free in between their appointments together, and another EEG would determine that her brain was indeed normal. However, Dr. Luthi, who was non-religious, would essentially belittle Annalise for telling him that she was seeing these horrible visions on a daily basis. He believed, personally, that she was a very superstitious Catholic. With this, he would clear Annalise to go to university. This would be the last time that she would see God, and the last time she would mention the demons to any medical profession, becoming more depressed and withdrawn. Mother would finally confide in Annalise, telling her that her whole life she's wanted to be a teacher, and now that the opportunity is here, she's not taken. Annalise would explain that she was depressed, and tired, that the drugs were not helping, that the demons, manifestations, were only getting worse, still considering her daughter's issues to possibly be spiritual in nature, and would arrange for her to begin meeting with priests every day. The two priests that would begin to receive letters from both Anna and Annalise, Father Bolt. After reading the letters, their interest not only peaked with the descriptions of what poor Annalise was experiencing, Father Bolt began to feel very ill, seeing the hour. After this happened, he would retire back to his dormitory and try to sleep it off. Shortly after the clock struck midnight, Father Bolt would awake with silent, calm sweat. The storm raged outside. Light illuminated. As he laid in his bed, feeling awful, he began to pray. But as he prayed, he would feel someone or something press on his bed, as if they had walked onto him. This deeply frightened the father as he jumped off his bed and began to pray out loud. As the words left his mouth, horrendous, burning smoke began to fill his room. All rushed out of his door, and into the hall. His vision began to narrow, and his color perception was changing as he rushed down the stairs and headed toward the exit door. Within the shadows cascading from the walls, the stained glass that surrounded the hall, distorted faces began to reveal themselves. Father All now knew that what he was dealing with was indeed very real evil forces. He would run outside and into the rain, falling to his knees and gripping his rosary as he attempted to catch his breath. He would eventually return back to his room once he felt that the force had passed. However, the scent of burning fecal matter still filled the entire parish. Even the following day was still there, would be experienced by all of the priests and staff. This event would further the interest in Annalise's case and further motivate the priests to act quickly, fearing that the young woman was indeed being affected by the demonic. Father Alt would begin to meet with Annalise when he could, and then would accommodate her school schedule. This particular point, she seemed to be doing fairly well, despite still seeing the manifestations most days. She would begin classes on November 1st, 1974, to lectures day in and day out, and seeking various churches and chapels to relax and pray. She remained a diligent student, and her life, despite these awful visions that bothered her still, was about to change. At the end of November, Annalise would meet a fellow student by the name of Peter. He was somewhat like herself. He was very shy and friendly. He was outgoing and got to know him. The two shared many classes together. Soon falling in love. Several weeks into their relationship, however, Annalise would tell Peter to stop seeing, fearing that the demons came back. But despite what his new girlfriend was telling him, Peter denied this and still refused to leave her side. Soon after this, Annalise would go in for a checkup evaluation where she would have an EEG hit again, except this time, the doctor administering the EEG would then make Dr. Scheidt find patterns of epilepsy. This is significant because this is the first time out of all of the other times that any patterns of epilepsy had ever been found. As a result of this, Dr. another anticonvulsant drug known as Dilantin in hopes that it would improve her condition. Following this appointment, Peter and Annalise would continue their relationship, which Annalise would confide in Peter more so about what she was experiencing with the demonic figures and faces that still plagued her. Peter had also become aware of the awful stench that seemed to follow her, especially when she was experiencing these supposed hallucinations. And as their relationship progressed, he wanted her to join him in meeting his family and friends, but Annalise refused, worrying that they may not be as understanding as Peter. Michelle would ultimately express that she did have moments of clarity, but she did feel like herself, herself, those devils. Despite taking her medication daily, rigorously, the faces would remain, and soon coupled with the faces, she would begin to experience debilitating headaches. Father Alt, checking in on her with the local bishop there on campus, would discuss that her complaints and ailments continued to be the same, despite her taking her medication every single day. He would arrange to have Annalise meet him in a nearby town, the two would pray together. Peter would ultimately take Annalise to this appointment, and would be surprised at how quickly she seemed relieved after the two began praying. Although very skeptical, Peter began to believe that possibly this might be a spiritual problem. I did want to take a moment here and say that there is so much information about what happened to Annalise in her life, and I've been pretty thorough up to this point, but I'm going to do a few briefer sections leading up to the paranormal manifestations that were something of, just because if I sat here on every painstaking detail, we'd be here all day. Following the meeting with Father Alt, Annalise's depression returned. She told Peter that the clanking of the knives and forks sickened her, that the demons would let her leave, coupled with her losing her memory and becoming ever more impulsive. Other witnesses to the strange behavior she exhibited began to rise as well. One incident in particular, a mutual friend of both Annalise and Peter, named Anna Lever, witnessed something that she would never forget. In July of 1975, with Anna, Annalise, and Peter sitting in Annalise's dorm, having a casual conversation, suddenly, out of nowhere, Annalise's face contracted and contorted into something demonic in appearance. Her entire body looked stiff as if she was entering a catatonic state. Obviously freaked out by this, Anna asked Peter what was happening. Peter simply died. It's the demons. She's under possession. Not knowing what else to do but to agree with Michelle, and it would take an hour and a half for this episode to be over. Following this happening, it became clear that Annalise could no longer be by herself, and intense. The two would reach out to her parents. Several days later, upon arrival, Annalise was able to start eating again. Her healing problems continued. If anything, they worsened greatly in a very short period of time. During a phone call between Father Alt and Michelle's mother, the two would be interrupted frequently by the mournful screams of Annalise, screaming obscenities. Father Alt would ask a willing priest closer to Annalise to assist him in aiding her spiritual life, and then they would follow. Upon reaching out to the family to arrange his meeting with them, Father Alt was surprised. Annalise's mother answered the phone and said, Father Alt, the two had never met before, nor had she been previously informed that Father Alt was going to come. Bewildered, he said, Yes, that's me. He was then informed that Annalise had told him that he was going to phone. That right there to the priest was an indication of the demonic, knowledge of the unknown. He would arrive a week later, and upon entering the house, he could hear the girl scream from her room above. A horrible stench, like something burning, like dung and sulfur, filled the room that he and Mrs. Michelle chatted in, the main living room of the house. Trying to find the source of the scent, he checked all the other rooms. He checked outside, in the kitchen, everything that he could think of. Yet he could find no explainable origin for this horrible smell. Mrs. Michelle would inform him that Annalise had been away roughly 20 minutes before his death. Stepping outside to look at the silk, the two would chat further. Father Robert informed Annalise's outbursts of rage. All around, saw her behavior. The family would beg him to hurry up, to which he agreed. Reluctantly walking upstairs to Annalise's room for the first time, he couldn't help but notice the undead dogs that lined the floor. Upon opening the door, a siege began. She began cursing, screaming at the top of her lungs, telling him to not dare take the crucifix out of his pocket, which he had not told anyone that he was carrying. She ran out of the bed up to his face, suddenly stopping an inch or two away, as if she was frozen. Her eyes blackened, and she said, "Priest, you intro." She then collapsed on the floor in a catatonic state. This was more than enough for Father Rolf to rush to arrange a meeting with Father Rolf to discuss what exactly had taken place. Within 2 days, they would meet in person, to which Father Rolf explained that he had no doubts that the girl was being troubled by demons. He had no doubt that it was the demon, the real demon. Therefore, the two together will seek to move forward with the full permission to begin the exorcism process during the wait for the final settlement. In the course of the next year, they discussed it hard as her say that she sounded like a man, speak Latin, and eventually be reduced to a catatonic state, following the all too familiar pattern of wandering. Knowing that he had a long battle ahead of him, the priest was saddened that the first ritual had not been successful. He would leave for the night, and ultimately return 4 days later, on September the 28th, in the evening. He then brought with him in hopes of providing a record of future step within the church. Due to this decision, we now have some of the most disturbing audio I've maybe ever heard. And I've heard a lot of crazy stuff. This is just a portion of what he recorded.
Let's hear it. Oh, Jesus. That's just creepy, bro. Wow. Oh my God. That's definitely demonic possession, bro. There's no way that's a mentally ill person. That's definitely demonic possession. God fucking almighty, bro. Do you hear that?
Annalise would again repeat the chaotic behavior that was exhibited within the first exorcism, and the devil that resided within her began to rebuttal the priest of Latin, as well as her native tongue of German. Although being
That
familiar with the
audio
Latin
is
language,
creepy, bro.
Annalise was not fluent, let alone fluent enough to have been able to rebuttal a priest in real time who spoke the language fluently.
Wow,
As the
bro.
priest inquired as to why the girl was being tormented, it, whatever it was, replied, she was cursed.
This is the recording of I want to I think this is the first I don't know who you is. I know who you is. I know who you is. Before you go, it's the exorcism like wasn't behind it was a parallel. It's actually a true story.
The following morning, around 7 a.m., on July the 1st of 1976, she would be found dead in her bed. All of the exorcisms and attempts to drive
The exorcist, like space no longer healed the Brooklyn and black. That
Annalise
is a long
thought
story.
he died at by
Fireworks.
then to an emaciated shell of herself. Just how did we get here? Was it malpractice? Was she mentally ill? Was it truly the hands of the demonic that stuffed her lungs? After multiple calls had been made by her grieving family, a man named Dr. Kelly performed post-mortem examination and support the following details against Marcelin's brilliant treatment. Her death was determined to be caused by starvation, possibly aggravated and tremendous physical exertion, and final loss of her nerve. You would find that her inner organs surprisingly were healthy, not damaged, as well as her brain, which showed no signs of epilepsy, not even on a microscopic level. Curiously still, no bruising, bed sores, or serrations were found on her skin. In the ensuing aftermath, the police were arrested and charged with negligent homicide, as well as Joseph and Anna. The trial and case overall become a highly debated issue, which will people with some being convinced that she died at the hands of Satan herself, and others that it was the fault of malpractice on behalf of the priests and parents. The trial will last months, with doctors weighing in their opinions, abuse, witnesses, and just the whole news. And although I have those details here, there is so much to it, just the trial itself, that honestly I would probably have to be really just a verdict, however, in my opinion, is the after a much heated debate, ultimately, Michelle's parents and the priests involved would be charged with negligent homicide and would be sentenced to 6 months in prison. 6 months ultimately would be reduced to 3 years of probation as months of fall, given the unique circumstances of the case. The church would draw a ton of heat as a result of what happened. They would ultimately retract the proclamation that Annalise Michelle was deceased. Michelle had been buried under horrid circumstances, and as a result of this, as well as multiple religious people sharing that they had visions of her body untouched by decay, she would be exhumed almost 2 years later, with the intention being to have her buried in a nicer coffin. Her family and friends were discouraged from viewing her remains because they were consistent with the decay of corpse of that age. In the end, her case would go on to achieve her goal, would force the Catholic Church to all but never issue sanctioned exorcisms, and honestly fairly accurate sub-levels to the original story. And of many of those books, the best and most utilized resource of them, for me, has been The Exorcism of Annalise Michelle by Felicitas D. Goodman. All, and I mean all details you could ever want about the entire case are available in this book. I would highly recommend it. In conclusion, Annalise's case remains a terrifying and mysterious one. Was she demonically possessed or incredibly mentally ill? Did her priests and parents genuinely help her in being freed from Satan's grasp? Or did they contribute to the end of her life accidentally? Really, the final conclusion is yours to make. But regardless of the cause, I'm glad that her suffering is over. And I pray now that considered to be one of the most terrifying films of all time, the movie The Exorcist paralyzed the masses upon its release and brought the devil home to millions of people. Although the horror and special effects enhanced the story being portrayed, what if I told you that the story itself was inspired by a true story of demonic possession? When a young boy loses his beloved aunt, he starts to dabble with the occult and makes contact with the other side. But what he contacts isn't what he bargained for. What follows not only terrified a family, but by proxy thousands of people all over the world. This is the terrifying story of the exorcism of Linda and the demons that plagued him. If you like mysteries, then you're going to love the sponsor in today's video. June's Journey is a hidden object mystery quest to solve the murder of her sister and uncover her family's many secrets. You'll come to find that she also has a knack for getting into tricky situations and solving her and her friends' problems using her determination. The game is totally free to download, and it allows you to find hidden objects and beautiful and carefully crafted and colorful scenes. With it being free, not only can you help me out, but you can have an awesome time diving into some mysteries. Download James Journey for free by clicking my link in the description below or scanning the QR code on the screen now. Available on Android, iOS mobile, as well as PC, Facebook users. The story starts in 1949 in a small town, Cottage City, in Maryland. Paul Montell is mourning the death of his beloved aunt. His passing was very sudden. The two had been extremely close. Melanie was known for being an avid spiritualist, perhaps a New Age person of her time, and was always very interested in things like spirits, the afterlife, and Ouija boards. Seeing this activity, the young woman became very interested as well, and alongside his aunt Melanie, he was taught by her how to properly use a Ouija board to contact the other side. Following her sudden death over the summer of 1948, as Roland Warner, tucked away in a trunk of her belongings, he rediscovers the Ouija board that Aunt Millie had given him. In a moment of desperation, he laid the board on a nearby table and attempted to speak with Aunt Millie once again. But alas, despite his best efforts, Millie came through. It is this moment that is believed to be the catalyst for what will follow. Just days after Roland used the board, things started happening, but not with the board itself. The entire family started hearing a steady dripping sound, with seemingly no origin. And after this continued for about a week, they called in a plumber, who ultimately would find no evidence of any sort of arrival. The drips started with thumps and scratches, which were seemingly coming from inside of the walls. The family tried to make sense of the activity, first suspected mice. So as they had with the potential leak situation, they scheduled and then had a well-known exterminator come out. He too would find no evidence of any sort of infestation. For the next several months, things would continue to escalate. Furniture began to move by itself. Other items rolled across the wall. Invisible force, or no Jesus that began to rattle and shake as if it was being hit from behind. The happenings continued to grow with intensity, leading to a crescendo.
I'm Franklin Becker. Join me on a culinary road trip as I take iconic state dishes from around the country and recreate them with a type 2 diabetes-friendly twist. This is 50 States, 50 Plates.
Forcing to move out of the walls, into Wolfen's room, into his bed. One night, he was violently awakened to his bed shaking profusely. Screamed for his mom, came as he experienced the terror of his mother. Both at a loss for words. The family tried to decipher what was happening. They soon had Roland examined by a doctor and then a psychiatrist. Both of them concluded that the young man was very stressed out, but otherwise healthy. Day after day, the boy was being plagued by forces that he couldn't see or defend himself against. Markings began to materialize on his body. The first markings spelled out the word "out." All frightened and trying to find a resolution, the family used the Ouija board to try lasting from about 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. At the conclusion of this session, Roland finally fell into a restful sleep, or so it seemed. After explaining to the family their thoughts on what had taken place, they decided that they would convene among themselves to try and decide how to move forward to better assist Roland and his family. The priests returned to their homes and then met the following morning. It was here that both men decided that they were dealing with the real deal. Together, they made the decision to pursue an exorcism. Father Bowder, as senior priest, reached out to the Archbishop of St. Louis to ask permission to perform the rites of exorcism, which he was granted under one request. That request being that he provided a day-to-day account for the church, to which he agreed. Each segment of this story from here on out is written with excerpts of what the priest documented during his experiences. Father Bowdern and Father Bishop returned to the residence 1 week later. They went upstairs and entered the boy's frigid room and began the ritual. They began to violently act out, so with the help of the boy's father subduing him, they were able to continue. It would be written out that the boy's blows were beyond that of his age, which March had the strength of Father Bishop found this out the hard way. Mid-prayer, Roland managed to break loose from his father and punch the priest in the face. Later he discovered that he broke his nose. All of the aftermath of this first night, all for the first time in a long time, seemed calm. The boy did not act out, but rather was unconscious and just peacefully slept. Perhaps, they thought, the prayers were beginning to work. However, that was until the priests left. Almost as quickly as their feet crossed the threshold of the residence, the boy began to yell and scream at the top of his lungs. This belligerent rage would last for hours. At the desperation of the parents, once they were able to recontact them, both priests returned as quickly as they could. With the assistance of both the boy's father and now mother, they had no other choice other than to continue the ritual, hour after hour, for approximately 4 hours. Roland screamed and contorted. Suddenly, the boy began to lurch as if he was going to throw up. Quickly asked for the window near his bed, which his mother did. Roland rushed to the window and vomited a thick, black-looking substance. Within minutes, he seemed to be normal, like his old self, for the first time in a long while. The family and the priest knelt down and thanked God. With a sign they gave thanks, it seemed like a triumph for the good of the human. The ritual over. The Catholic rites of exorcism. Sometimes, the devil will leave the possessed person in peace to make it appear as if he is departed. The exorcist must see through this with the power of God and realize this is a trap. The boy seems to rest for the first time. The family feels a true sense of relief, or so they think. It's now 2 a.m. Peace and quiet fills the house. The priest had been gone for several hours, when suddenly, the screams began to fill the house once again. Deep, guttural screams, as if something otherworldly was trying to break through his physical intents and purposes, he appears to be sleeping with his eyes wide open. The priests, not wanting to leave the home in case the devil decides to reappear yet again, take to visiting with the family for several more hours and conserving what little energy they have left. It's a good thing they did, because bizarre activity resumes around 8:30 a.m. with a vengeance. Various knocking noises, accompanied by Roland's screams, resume a seemingly never-ending hell. There's now more violence than ever before. Roland is exerting strength beyond his normal capacity. He begins barking in multiple octaves, as if there are two voices inside of him, fighting to escape. It's the chaos. His mother breaks down and has to leave the room for her own sanity. The boy she's looking at, she no longer recognizes as her son. In due time, thankfully, he again goes catatonic, following this event. All their vows suggest that the boy be sent away to a worthy place where the exorcism can continue. An unfamiliar and sanctified place that will assist them in calling upon God to intervene in what is quickly being seen as the most intense case of possession that either of them had ever seen. This way, Roland is away from his mother and can no longer cause her any further distress as well. Ultimately, it's decided that he'll be sent to a hospital ran by an order of Catholic monks, not too far from his current home, as well as the church in which the priests operate out of. A bit of a crossroads of sorts. After strange happenings and his terrifying behavior, his first night there, Roland is placed in